Is marriage between a man and a woman? Yes and no. You think, why did you answer it both ways? Well, it all depends on what authority you want. If you look to God, God made it plain, as the Lord spoke in Matthew 19, that from the very beginning he created them male and female, and said, for this cause shall a man leave his father and mother, shall cleave to his wife, and the twain shall be one flesh. And then he said, what God hath joined together, let not man put asunder. The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 7 and verse 2 reiterated that when he said, to avoid fornication, let every man have his own wife, and every woman have her own husband. That tells you, again, that God's plan is man and woman, but also that otherwise it is fornication. Well, why then did you say, you might ask, that you can have a marriage? Well, if you allow man to define terms, you can come up with all sorts of odd things. Man can redefine faith, man can redefine salvation, to redefine heaven, anything you want. But God has made it plain that the result of not having him as the authority is disastrous. You look in the book of Romans in the first chapter and you find the Apostle Paul, beginning in verse 18 and following, he talks about the horrendous situation that existed, the degrading of mankind, the awful immorality that went on, and it included man with man and woman with woman. But he gives the reason for it in verse 28. He said these individuals refused to retain God in their knowledge. He'd earlier said that it was the idea that they worshiped the creature rather than the creator. And isn't that where we are? We say, well, I understand what he says, but, well, I've just put myself on the pedestal. But the fact is, God has given a plan for marriage, and from the beginning and continuing even now, it is male and female, man and woman. Otherwise, they're not joined together. Oh, they might be joined together in the laws of man, but what else has happened through the ages in the laws of man? We ought to be concerned with the laws of God. John 12 and verse 48, it is that word which will judge us. You know, in the book of Romans, the first chapter, the horrible thing in verse 18 and following is preceded by the gracious knowledge we can have of salvation. The gospel is the power of God unto salvation. In verse 17, it reveals the righteousness of God, not the ideas of man. If you'd like to know more about that, we'd love to study with you. Thank you for listening.